Welcome to the third day and the final day of WTF 20, a 3 days digital conference for artists brought to you by PrintShop by Designhill. This is the world's leading creative print on demand marketplace. This conference is in association with Illustrators Artists Clubs, Graphic Designers Club, Pattern Designers Club, Typography Designers Club, Logo Designers Club, and special thanks to our online learning partner, Milan Art Institute, Georgia, USA. I, Aruditi, shall be your host for the session. It's my great pleasure and feel honored to welcome our AMA speaker for today, Ben Treat. And you'll be amazed to know, guys, that Ben is our youngest artist of WTF 20. He's just 17-year-old. He is a stop motion animator who is using clay and makes cool visuals using clay dough. Today, he is going to talk about how to continuously find inspiration as an artist. This is amazing and really amazing topic to talk about. Ben, thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us. We are honored to have you on board.
Well, thank you. This is awesome for me too. I'm excited.
Before we start the session, I would like to give a quick shout out to our partners and a bit of an introduction about us. Awesome. So without any further delay, Ben, let's start with your AMA session by picking a really interesting question related to our topic. And the question goes like, how do you define an inspiration?
How do I define inspiration? Awesome. So I would say inspiration is anything that motivates you to really take action in your art. And there's no fine line to inspiration. I think inspiration can come from anywhere and pretty much everything. At least for me, it definitely does. You can find inspiration in pretty much like any sort of different genre. You can, like for me, I see I find a lot of inspiration in other animators, but you can find inspiration in nature. You can find inspiration in people. You can find inspiration in action, and it's not limited to art or some of the mediums that people tend to think it is. At least that's my opinion.
Okay, that's great. Like you can find inspiration from anywhere, right? So I have taken this flow of the questions, and the next question would go like this: how to convert an inspiration into an idea?
So generally, whenever I find inspiration, I just instantly want to do something with it. I I tend to take action pretty quick, and it's really sudden for me. I've had times where I've woken up in the middle of the night and gotten up and just gone out to start working on art. So just taking action is pretty immediate, at least for me. I know other people deal with inspiration in different ways. They plan, they do all sorts of different things, but I think taking inspiration and just molding it, you take it and I guess you sculpt it into something greater. You can take inspiration is like something, it's like motivation, I guess I said before, but you can take that and just make it into your action, I guess, turning it from you're just feeling excited to actually taking action. And I tend to do that right away. I hope that makes sense.
Awesome. You just take the inspiration and work on it right away. That's nice. That's quick. So next question would go like, how do you make sure that your working isn't too heavily inspired by the inspiration, influenced by the inspiration? You're not copying it.
Right. Yeah. This is really important in art. And I think that it's definitely something that I've struggled with. Other artists have struggled with. Lots of people struggle with taking an idea and making sure that it's not just copying it. And that's very important in the art world and really in the whole world. You can't steal from people in any situation. So I think when you get inspired by someone, when someone creates something amazing, you really just have to take that as just inspiration. Don't take it as you can't copy it in any way. So what you can do, or what I tend to do, is I take an idea and you think of it in your own light. You have to mold it into you. You have to express yourself through it. And that depends, of course, on what it is. But I would tend to take an idea and just rework it and come up with, make it into a new idea, reshape it. It's hard to explain just with terms, but I have an example actually of this where there was an artist who created an animation of a flower growing out of a vase, and they did it by cutting away at the flower and then reversing the animation. And the way that you take that is you can't go and just pick your own flower and do the exact same thing. So instead I had a bunch of flowers in a big bunch of them, and then I had all these elements around the flowers that showed the passing of time. And I really worked on changing the focus from the flower to the idea of time passing. And for me, I added a clock in the background spinning and changing time, and you really change that idea and make it your own. And I think that's really key in art.
What I get is you should have some observational powers for that inspiration thing.
Yeah. You have to interpret it into your own. You can't take someone's idea, but you rework it, you mold it to your own.
Yeah. So the next question would be, what kind of sources do you find your inspiration from?
Yes. So there's a lot of people on Instagram that I follow who are very incredible artists, and they absolutely blow me away. Let's see if I can drop a few of those names. Here we go. All right. In the chat, I just shared the Instagram of, I think it's pronounced Potograph. I'm awful with pronouncing things, but this animator is absolutely incredible. He's animated one animation a week for, I don't know how many weeks he's done. He's at, I think, almost maybe 2 years or something by now. But his animations blow me away, and they're a crazy inspiration source for me. So there's a lot of different animators out there who I rely heavily on for inspiration, and they always just blow me away. But I say that the main place that that I find inspiration is definitely other animators, and also actually my surroundings. This is kind of on a different topic, but my surroundings are a big inspiration source for me. Almost, it's hard to say inspiration to this almost, but it definitely is. But if you look at my animations, a lot of them are based in reality and based in physical objects that are around me, which is how stop motion works. It's a very physical medium. So if I'm sitting here and I do homework, if I'm just taking a walk, I'll see something that's physical that's in front of me, and inspiration can come from that. I can sometimes there's just an idea that springs from it. For instance, a stapler. I can see a stapler on my desk and think of it as a trampoline or as like an alligator mouth, or there's so many different ways to take inspiration from everything around you. Those are probably the two main places I find inspiration.
Awesome. So we'll just catch up with the next question because I suppose our question tab is flooded with questions, Ben. You are going really great. People are loving you. So I have this pretty good question is it fine to stick with one art form or techniques and master it or keep changing and trying?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I personally don't like to be locked into a box, really. So when I started animating, I had a very defined medium. I had a very defined look. If you go to my Instagram and you scroll to the beginning, you'll see a very specific style, a very specific medium. I always say medium, but it's it's pretty locked in. It locked me into a box. And I really did get tired of animating just that very, it was monotone. I'd use simple ideas and simple colors. And I guess I broke free from that. So I would say that it's fine to change your medium, to go and explore and find out what you really like, because it's awful to be stuck in a medium or stuck in an art form that you don't always love. And sometimes it changes. I do claymation a lot, and I sometimes switch to paper animation, and I sometimes switch to object animation. And I don't think you need to be locked into a box of any sort. So explore, find what you love.
Oh, that's awesome. You have already found what you love at a very young age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good question by Chris James. We are taking it from the question tab. I'm just okay. This is the question on the screen. Hey Ben, what made you take on the challenge of creating stop motion rather than utilizing the power of the third animator programs that are now available?
Yeah. So stop motion to me has been probably, I guess it's my favorite. There's all kinds of options with other forms of animation. I never really explored 3D, but I did explore 2D animation a lot, and I learned a lot, and I kind of decided that wasn't the route I wanted to take. It might be something to do with the physicality of stop motion. I love that I can do it just with my hands and change ideas, and it's a very unique medium. It's something that most people don't really know, and I guess I found value in that. I found that you could share this art form that a lot of people consider to be kind of an old art form. And there's so much information out there on 3D animation and 2D animation and other forms of animation. I kind of wanted to explore something more niche, something more like it's in its small world, it's its own bubble. I guess that's why I went more towards stop motion rather than 3D animation.
Cool. So we got another question from Elizabeth, I suppose. Okay, the question goes like, when learning new techniques, do you just experiment with them on your own using the materials you have, or are these resources you refer to plus one? How do you plan your complex animators? Okay.
Yeah, okay. So when learning new stuff, I do what most people probably don't. I know a lot of people who go straight to professionals or straight to tutorials and they try and learn that way. But the way I learned that I can really, I guess, learn deeper is actually just trying and practicing. So for claymation was new to me about half a year ago. I've only been doing claymation for probably half a year now. I did other types of animation before that. And there's tons of tutorials out there explaining to me how to do claymation, but I really just started. I just physically got the materials and just started exploring. I wouldn't say that I went to, that's where I guess the self-taught aspect comes into it. It takes a lot longer. It takes a lot of time to really find your own way to do things. But I think it's better for me, at least, because it locks it in and I understand how to better, and it kind of becomes a pattern for me. And then with my complex animations, yeah, so whenever I create an animation specifically, if it's going to be more complex and there's a lot of moving elements, I spend a couple hours just playing just messing with the actual objects with my camera set up. I'll do test runs, I'll take little sequences, I'll play with different things, I'll make sure I can handle everything, because sometimes there's multiple objects moving at the same time on screen and you have to keep track of this and this and this. And you just got to practice and you just got to play and you got to learn that way. That's how I learn.
Oh, that's awesome. I suppose I can get the technique of you learning. You just experiment things to
Yeah.
get, learn. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
get it. So the next question would be, is pushing yourself through an art block okay?
Pushing yourself through an art block. That's something that I've had to do, and I've actually, like, it happens all the time. Art block it's so painful. You have to sit there and not. I would say whenever I have art block, it's more because I can't find the motivation to do something. I always have animation ideas. It's not always that I don't have ideas to work on, because there's always something. But normally there's a motivation error, not error, but motivation problems, because at least stop motion, an animation will take me 20 hours or longer. So finding the energy to go and just get to it sometimes is hard to find. And I don't know if you should push through it, because when I was animating when I was 13 years old, and I did a challenge where I challenged myself to create a new animation every day for a year, and I did that, and it kind of killed me. I really hated animating by the end of it, and it was those times where you just didn't feel like it, but you wanted to keep going with that streak that you created, and you pushed yourself through it, and then it made me lose interest for a while, and I kind of had to build that back up. So I don't think it's great to push through an art block. I think you need to take your time and let that inspiration come back to you and help you through it.
Nice, awesome. So next we'll take the question from the question tab by Elri, and this question goes like, what? Okay, this is the most voted question, I suppose. What type of clay do you use, and how did you learn to sculpt?
So for clay, I get this question a lot. I have a lot of people really curious, because I've experimented with different types of clay, and people tend to just not really know what type, like, they think clay is clay and they don't really think about the different types of clay that there are. But there are vast differences in the types of clay that you get. So I originally I got sculpting clay, I got oil-based clay, I got all types of clay, and some of them would air dry and they'd harden while I was animating, and that's not the right type. And some of them were too hard and they would crumble, and that's not the right type either. So what I've learned is that oil-based clay that's meant for kids almost, like even Play-Doh. I don't actually use Play-Doh, but it's very similar, because you can leave it out in the air for a really long time and come back and it's still soft. And for me, I use a clay called Nara modeling clay, and I can leave it out for months at a time, and I can come back and just mold it a little bit and it'll be soft again. It's really great. And then it's also, you can actually melt it and it'll just turn back into clay. It doesn't ruin it at all. So it's really versatile. And but you can't bake it. So that's kind of the give and take with using specific types of clay. But learning to sculpt has been a challenge for me. I'm still learning, and I wouldn't consider myself good at sculpting yet. I'm still definitely learning every day, every time I sculpt. But just jumping into it, my first real sculpting claymation, I animated Baby Yoda, and I had him eat a frog. And that day, I just spent the entire day re-sculpting Baby Yoda, redesigning his face, messing with everything. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had fun, and I just played with it. I guess I'm an experiment. I experiment a lot to learn.
That's awesome. So we catch up with the next question. When you find an inspiration or an idea, do you write or make a little sketch as a reminder? Or you just keep it in the...
Yeah, I have done that in the past. Nowadays, I don't think I do that quite as much. I used to, whenever I had the series where I did an animation every day, whenever I found inspiration, I would write it down instantly. I had a page just full of ideas that I wanted to go through with, because sometimes ideas don't go straight to you. You have to explore a little bit. So whenever you find one, it's kind of like a hidden gem, and you have to keep track of it. But recently, I really wait for something to really motivate me, something to push me to actually just run downstairs and start sculpting in my studio. I wait for that, because that's when it's perfect. If I can have an idea that I'm so excited about that I can just get to work and not be like overthinking, or I just start and have fun doing it, that's what I wait for. So I don't tend to anymore. I don't write or sketch as much, but I used to for sure.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you so much for this answer. So we have this most voted question. It would goes like, how do you brainstorm? Majorly when you're working on a project, single when you're working on a project, how do you brainstorm?
Yeah. So for me, I like to actually bounce ideas around in a group of people. So I still live at home with my family, and my parents are both creatives. So my dad's a videographer, my mom's a graphic designer, and what I actually tend to do is I go and I stand in my kitchen and I pace in circles and I just say ideas and I just bounce them around. And sometimes my parents will point something out. Sometimes my older brother will point something out. I sometimes do it with my friends. I just like to bounce ideas around and wait for something to kind of materialize. And sometimes it really annoys people because I have a specific idea in mind, and then I'll be like, "What do you think?" And they'll give me what they think, and I'm like, "Nah, that's terrible." And then it makes them all upset, and I need to work on that for sure. But working with people, that's how I tend to develop ideas.
Okay, nice. So we are running short of time. So I have two more questions with you for you. So the question goes, this is a very nice question. How to always stay excited for your work? Not losing the rhythm.
Yeah. Staying excited, I think, is almost, for me at least, it's pacing myself. I take everything really fast. I go full in. I jump straight into projects and then I burn myself out. So keeping that excitement for long periods of time, I really have to slow myself down and find the little parts that I enjoy. Just like for like this, I'm recently working on a little baking animation. And what I would like to do is go downstairs and just power through sculpting every little bit of clay. But instead, I decide to take an extra amount of time to just play with clay and explore ideas and not push myself to get that animation out at a certain date. And that really helps me to hold that energy and that excitement for a longer period of time and not really burn myself out as much. This is the animation that Chris is referring to. I'll drop it in the chat real quick. There it is. Okay, so that animation I did recently of a hippo coming out of a bathtub. This is something that a lot of animators have wondered about, because it's sometimes you don't really know how to make water in animation, because there's no good clay that looks clear and looks like water, and there's no good material that's really easy to use. So this is like an animator's secret almost for this. Using hair gel. Hair gel it's not perfect, but it's pretty great because it's got it's moldable, so you can mold it, and but it slowly melts, so you have to be fast. So for this animation, I just piled hair gel on and took a lot of time molding each frame of it, and it's like the little secret animator water effect. So that's pretty fun. I also used hot glue and saran wrap. So for the pouring faucet, it's saran wrap rolled up, what's a plastic wrap, I guess you'd call it, and hot glue for some of the keyframes. When the water springs up into droplets, the hair gel isn't strong enough to hold itself like that, so you have to use hot glue to make some of the special effects. But that was a fun one.
That's awesome. I hope, Chris, we have answered your question. Okay, so we'll just wrap up with a really amazing question that I love, and we had this question in the last AMA session too. If you would be an animal, what it would be and why?
Ooh, an animal. My favorite animal is probably a lizard. So
Oh,
I might be a lizard. I don't know. I don't know if that's like interesting, but it's probably just because they're my favorite. I grew up catching lizards all the time, so that might just be why. But I also probably I tend to just disappear from time to time, just into my own little world of animation. I feel like lizards do that. They're kind of flighty and disappear under rocks. I think I kind of live under a rock, an animation rock, where I disappear forever.
yeah, so we thank you so much for joining us. We have tried to answer all of your questions. This brings to an end of the session. This was indeed a value packed session with Ben. We tried to answer all of your questions, and I'm sorry if we if we missed out some questions because of the short of time. And many thank you everyone for joining us. Stay tuned for our next session of panel discussion. The link is already shared to you. We'll share it again. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. You want to see off the crowd?
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. That was really fun.
Thank you so much for joining.